Hey guys, it's me, Sword Saint 876, and this is the first real non-boss video that I'm doing. Today I'm going to be ranking my personal top 10 hardest Soulsborne bosses. Now if you see my channel, you know I do some pretty crazy challenge runs, like doing Radon roll only. That was insane. But I decided I'd finally show myself a little and rank these bosses. So it's my first video, so if it's a little wonky, you know, it's all cool. But anyways, let's get started. Number 10, Mesmer the Impaler. This is my personal favorite boss in Elden Ring, and one of my favorite bosses of all time. And he's pretty tough too. His moveset still gives me trouble. Now, for number 10 is between Demon Prince and Mesmer, but overall, I went with Mesmer since on my most recent playthrough, I died to Mesmer more. But his phase 1 moveset's pretty tricky. He's fairly aggressive and has some pretty tough attacks like the Assault. And overall, it's a pretty tough fight. Phase 2 is still really tough for me, because with the snake combos with the spears, especially the one where he sends 5 snakes at you into the Assault, he throws me off a lot. But overall, awesome boss, really tough, definitely one of my favorites of all time. Number 9, Demon of Hatred from Sekiro. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated fights in the series. A lot of people say Demon of Hatred is bad because it relies on Dark Souls mechanics, but I completely disagree. It makes Sekiro's dodge system actually feel fun, as well as having some deflects. Now for the moveset, it's really tough. While I don't agree that it's just a Dark Souls boss, it is very different from a lot of the bosses, which really makes him tough. Especially this attack where he does the 4-hit combo with the swipe, stomps, and then big swipe. That one really killed me. That one killed me like 10 times in one playthrough, I think. And phase 3 is really tough with the Ring of Fire and fighting in their what's it called? I'd have to look at the attack's name, but the Ring of Fire attack when you have to fight him in that can be really, oh my lord, he really throws me off of that. But number 8, Rilana Twin Moon Knight. This is the first boss from the DLC that really gave me trouble, because especially compared to the Dancing Lion and some of the other bosses in the game, she is much faster. And this might be a hot take, but I think I died to phase 1 more than phase 2 just because it took me so long to figure out the moveset. Though nowadays phase 2 is probably the harder phase, especially with that Moon Slash attack that always gives me trouble. Overall, I think this is a really fun fight and really makes Elden Ring's dodging system feel really fun. Especially with the big combo she does in phase 2 where she hits like 10 times. It always feels good to dodge that attack, and the moon attack is one of the best in the game. Number 7, the Orphan of Kost from Bloodborne. Now I actually find this to be the second hardest boss in Bloodborne, and we'll get to number 1 actually pretty shortly. But Orphan of Kost is always giving me trouble though. Like in my Blood Level 4 run that you're watching right now, this was attempt number 400 something, I think, so yeah, this boss, if we were ranking solely on the first playthrough, I think he'd definitely be number 1, but I'm ranking them on my experience now, and he's still really tough. He'll still kill me a good 10 times or so. But this is definitely one of the best designed bosses in the series, and maybe the best designed boss in Bloodborne. Ludwig is my personal favorite, but moveset wise, this might be the most balanced fight in the game. I'm not even joking. It's completely fair, and I love it. Definitely in my top 10 favorite fights of the series. Number 6, Lawrence the First Vicar. If you probably saw this coming when I said Orphan was my second hardest boss in Bloodborne. Lawrence might have the biggest moveset in the game. He has so many mix-ups, and his attack tells are so weird sometimes. Especially in the crawling phase, that delayed arm slam always gets me every freaking time. And doesn't help in higher new game cycles that it one-shots you. Though despite that, I actually think Lawrence is another underrated boss. I've never really found him unfair. I've never really had trouble with the hitboxes. I just stay to his right or left side and dodge, and it's all good, even though it's still really tough. But overall, I think it's a good boss. Maybe it should have been reskinned as a Cleric Beast, but I think I like the moveset, and the lore is maybe the best in the game. Number 5, Sister Frieda, Dark Souls 3. Oh boy. I think if we're just talking first playthroughs, this fight might be at number 1, because I think I died around 500 times doing this fight properly for the first time at Soul Level 1. But even though I'm much more experienced at her now, she's still a huge challenge. I think I died her at least 20 times per playthrough. But let's go through the fight. Phase 1 is fairly tough. Definitely good step up from most base game bosses in Dark Souls 3. Though Phase 2 is where it really gets tricky and awesome. Seriously, this might be my favorite boss in Dark Souls 3 other than, Gale. But Phase 2 is where the fun begins, because Father Ariandel and Frida might be the best designed gank boss other than the Demon Prince, because their moves are always perfectly in sync. And it's a good take on the fire and ice trope. Though I think we all know where this fight's difficulty comes from. Phase 3. Oh boy, this moveset messed me up my first few playthroughs. I know I've said that a few times, but this is where I really struggled. Though this is, other than Gale, again, this is probably the best designed boss in Dark Souls 3, and it's really tough and tests all your dodging abilities. And Number 4, Bale the Dread, Elden Ring. Now, along with Midir and Fatalis, I think Bale is my favorite dragon boss. Because his moveset, along with the design, and of course, Egon, you have maybe the best dragon fight both aesthetically and moveset wise. And as for the moveset, it's pretty damn tough. The swipes, especially the lightning slam, always get me, and I mistime my rolls. But he is probably the best designed dragon boss I have ever fought, because there's nothing unfair here. Even the laser, which I really struggled dodging at first, once I learned that you have to run to the left first and then dodge the incoming big one, I almost did it consistently every time, and it is so satisfying to dodge. And I love the way he pauses in between the lasers, because it really shows how powerful it is. But just a great boss. Number 3, and my personal favorite boss of all time, Ishin the Sword Saint. I love this boss. This is the best designed boss ever, in my opinion. And boy, is it tough. Especially if you don't use Kuro's Charm. It forces you to play the fight perfectly. And like the other fights I mentioned, there is nothing unfair about this fight. Even the gun can be parried perfectly if you know what to do. Phase 2 is where the difficulty's at, and in my opinion, the best boss phase of all time. It's just so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to stop glazing this boss. But his moveset's really tough, especially since before this, not a lot of the bosses other than Allfather, in my opinion, and Demon Hatred, have been overly tough with their movesets. This dude is on a whole nother level. Especially in Phase 2. He is super aggressive. Uses like a perfect mix of deflection and Mikiri counterattacks. And just phenomenal. Oh. Number 2, Malenia, Blade of Mikula. Now, if we're going on just first time experiences, even though I died to Frida the most, I think Malenia is the boss that I struggled both in the game and emotionally with, because this boss almost broke me on my first playthrough. But after a few fights, I really came to enjoy this fight and recognize how well balanced it is. Now, I admit, my first playthrough, I was a weeb, using katanas and blood loss, yeah, boo. But once I started using greatswords and really focusing on dodging the boss's movesets, I realized I was wrong when I thought this was a bad boss at first. It's great. But let's talk about the fight. Phase 1 is already one of the hardest bosses in base game Elden Ring, and including Waterfowl, maybe the hardest other than maybe Radabeast and Malekith. Though, she has it's not just Waterfowl that makes her tough. Her other moves are really tough, like the prosthetic slices took me some time to figure out, and in the grab attack definitely killed me a few times. Though Phase 2 is where it really gets tough, because this might be, other than my number 1 pick, the most aggressive boss in the game in Phase 2. She never lets up. She attacks consistently, has explosions after some of her attacks, and now has the clones, which I consider to be one of the hardest attacks to dodge in Elden Ring. But I still think this is a great boss. And this has definitely been one of my biggest redemption arcs with a boss. It'll always be one of my favorite. Now, for a moment you've been waiting for, the hardest boss in the series, is number 1, Rick, Soldier of God. I'm joking. I'm sorry. I had to. Number 1, Promised Consort Radon. Yep, no one saw this one coming. Though, despite what everyone says, I think this is one of the best bosses in the series. There, I said it. Crucify me. I love this boss. But let's get into the fight. Phase 1 is already probably the most aggressive boss in Elden Ring. Though it's really good too, because there's nothing unfair in this phase. And he uses a perfect hacks of aggressiveness and gravity magic and stomps. It's super cool. Though, as we all know, Phase 2 is where this fight gets crazy. Now, I won't say this boss is completely 100% fair, because the arena in Phase 2 can be a little tricky, but it's not too much of a problem. But he gets super aggressive, has lasers at the end of every combo, making it really tough to dodge, and perfectly positioning yourself to dodge. Has the light speed clones, which gave me so much trouble on my first playthrough. And has the iconic meteor, which is just a straight up spectacle. And if you learn to dodge this attack, it is so satisfying. Though this boss definitely gave me the most trouble out of any boss on every run. Other than Melania on my first playthrough, this is definitely the most I struggled with a boss, as well as Fatalis. Fatalis, we'll talk about that first playthrough. But overall, I think this is a great boss. And the hardest boss I've ever fought other than Fatalis. And there's my list. I know this video probably wasn't the best, but then again, this is my first video outside of doing bosses on challenge runs. So let me know what you think. And of course, if you have some other takes, put them in the comments. And I will see you guys on the next one. Probably really soon, because I don't do these a lot, but I decided to do this for the first time, so let me know